this morning I'm speaking to Mohini Takoorparsadh, and she is a student at Stellenbosch University, currently starting with her master's as far as I understand. Mohini, welcome.
Hi.
So let's start with maybe a very simple question. When did you realize you wanted to become an engineer?
That's a question, hey? When I was choosing the field that I wanted to study, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was so confused. I just knew what modules I liked in school, and that was just art, science, bio, and maths. So that narrowed it down to almost everything. So I went to career counseling to try and see what is suited for me, and that didn't help at all. It basically told me I was suited to a bunch of stuff as well. So then I started going to career fairs to see what actually interests me. And then one day I went to the engineering fair at one of the universities, and I was walking around and I was like, cool, cool, cool. Then I saw this little robotic spider on a table. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. They're controlling the spider and it's walking around on the table. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. And then they were just like, no, sweetie, this is electrical engineering. And that's when I started to realize that maybe this might be for me.
Okay, interesting. And why did you choose Stellenbosch? You're not from this area. Is there a particular reason why you decided to come here?
Well, like any high school student, you don't actually know any of the universities, so you kind of just type into Google best universities in South Africa, and Stellenbosch came up as the best university for engineering, so naturally I applied.
Okay. What would you say has been your favorite part of this journey, this 4-year journey?
I think the best part of the journey is just building that skill set and seeing what you can do with those skills. Because in your first year, you're doing kind of general stuff and it feels like, this is a lot of hard work. Then in your second year, you start actually using that work and you do some cool stuff. You can develop a game if you're in the electrical stream. And as you carry on doing that, you see more and more cool things that you can use from the stuff that you learn. And that's been the best part for me. It's a little bit embarrassing, but the main reason why I wanted to become an electrical engineer wasn't from the little spider. It was from Big Hero 6. I wanted to build a Baymax. A Baymax, it's this little, not little, it's a robot in this animation movie. And his sole purpose is to help people. So when I watched that movie, I was just like, that is what I want to build someday.
Okay, excellent. I do hope you manage to do that one day. Could you tell me a bit more about your final year project and what that entailed?
Okay, my final year project was to build a PV module current voltage curve tracer. So basically it's just a measurement device that I had to design, simulate, test, and build. And then that measures the current and voltage and plots it on an axis. And then I needed to display it in some way. So I used wireless communication to transmit that information from my built measurement device to an Android device. So then I developed an app that could display that information.
Oh, nice. And be honest, when you were in your first year, did you ever expect to be able to build that thing on your own?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
When you came from school into university, how big a change was that for you, the adapting into the university pace and difficulty levels?
It was quite a step. It was actually quite a large step. But if you have to keep yourself motivated and you have to keep on working at it, because it's not what it used to be. It's not just learning from a book. It's practicing and it's staying dedicated to the work. And you might have to sacrifice a bit of social life, but, it's part of the process. But it's definitely worth it.
Maybe let's talk to that point, because some of the other interviewees have mentioned the same thing. They've said that you really need to keep the balance in your life going, so not just focus on studies, because it's kind of overwhelming.
Yes.
What type of thing do you tend to do to keep your student life balanced, and what type of activities do you take part in?
I love going to Pulp Cinema, which is the movie theater here on campus. So a few friends and I will go to Pulp and we'll just hang out there. And also just going for there's a lot of nature on this campus actually. Like there's nature reserves, there's Kutsenberg Mountain, so a lot of stuff that you can do. So we go for picnics, we go for hikes, a lot of like social things.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. Our campus is surrounded by beautiful mountains. I often tend to go
definitely a
walk there.
scenic one.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I wanted to check with you is if you were looking at Mohini from a few years ago, when you were still in high school, what advice would you give to her before she embarks on a career in engineering?
Oh, that is the question. I think the advice would be like, it gets better. Like it's very, very tough, but it gets better. Like just keep at it because this is worth it. And this is just as enjoyable as when you first discovered it. It just has its downhills, but there are a lot of uphills and downhills and uphills. It's a roller coaster. It's an experience, but you learn a lot. So let it happen. And I wouldn't change anything. Like I genuinely wouldn't change anything.
Right. So it was worth it in the end when you graduated.
Yes. Yeah, it was worth it.
Maybe also just for some of the students or some of the learners who are considering studying engineering, could you cast your mind back to when you were an undergraduate student? What would your typical day look like? Just in very briefly, what components would there be in your day?
This is something that like it doesn't seem that bad when you hear about it now, because in high school you're used to going to school early, then you spend the whole day at school, then you come home and you do your thing. But there's a change when you have to do it on your own. So when you're at university, you go to class early, like you have your 8 a.m., then you have lunchtime, you do your lunchtime thing, you come back to class, you have your tuts. Then after your tuts, you either go home and exercise and do stuff and like eat, and then you get back to work. That's the change, like motivating yourself to get back to work and then go to bed, because there is always work to do. You have to prep for your TAT the next day, every day. Otherwise, you will fall behind.
What do you think is the most important skill that you acquired as an engineering student?
Adaptability.
Using
the skills that you have and then just adapting to the problem.
I've never heard that. That's interesting. Well, Mohini, it was wonderful chatting with you. Thank you for sharing your experience and your thoughts, and good luck with your masters.
Thank you so much.